Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the last webinar of 2024. This is Sabrina Paganoni. I'm talking from the HEALEY AMG Center for ALS at Mass General Hospital in Boston, and I'm here with Catherine Small. We're allowing people to enter from the waiting room. And so thank you so much for joining. So I think we can go to the next slide. And for those of you who are new, or for those of you who are not new, you may know that we have been doing this webinar series since 2020. It was a request from some of our patient advocates who suggested that we should keep the community updated on a regular basis on our trials. And I had to say, it's been so wonderful to be able to connect to so many people via webinar since then. Now it's 4 years ago we started doing this webinar series. And as a reminder, if you join live, you can ask questions by typing questions in the Q&A box. If you're watching the recording or listening to the recording, again, you know that all our webinars are recorded, posted on the website. The slides are also posted. So feel free to go back to these or share it with your friends. And also, again, the slides are available for additional information. And so we want to update the community as frequently as possible on the platform trial. And I want to start by saying that the platform trial is grounded in robust collaboration with so many in the ALS community, including academic partners, industry partners, and importantly, patients and patient foundations who have all rallied around the trial and are supporting it, have been supporting it since 2020, and we continue to grow. Next slide. But of course, none of this would be possible without people living with ALS, their families, their friends. All of you are research partners. You are the most important research partners we have. And this trial and any progress really in ALS research would not be possible without your participation. And every participant helps us test new drugs and also make progress in ALS research. So thank you for being with us, for having supported the trial since 2020. And we're very excited that the trial continues to grow and will bring new regimens and new opportunities in 2025. Next slide. As a brief recap, we have been growing since 2020. We have added 7 drugs to the same common protocol and shared infrastructure. And it's because of this shared infrastructure that we can do things faster. In 2024, so over the last year, we have tested 2 drugs, regimens F and G, that included over 500 participants just in those 2 regimens. And over the last year, we have had hundreds of people working on the trial, and remarkably, we have accumulated a wealth of data and samples. And I do want to talk about the 150,000 samples that were collected from the over 500 people who participated in regimens F and G. And obviously, many of these samples are being used right now as we conclude these regimens and analyze the results. So that's obviously incredibly important contributions that will help us better understand if these drugs work or not. But in addition to that, many of these samples are being used or banked for future research, both related to these drugs and also from the placebo participants, ALS research in general. So I really want to emphasize how by doing things in a collaborative way with this common infrastructure, we can not only study new drugs, but also accumulate data and samples thanks to your participation that can be used to also power ALS research moving forward. And that's a contribution that I think is incredibly important, because whether these drugs work or not, we know that these samples and the data can help other research, and that's very important as well. Next slide. So again, that's a kind of a snapshot of our progress so far. And in 2024, as we end the end of the year, we are in the analysis phase of regimens F and G. And I really hope that over the next few weeks, we will have results to be shared on this webinar. So we will continue to, again, keep you posted whenever we can. Whenever we have the final results, we will be able to announce them as we have announced other results on this webinar series in the past. Next slide. And so every trial, every regimen really tests sort of the same approach or same concept to test more drugs, and more regimens are coming in 2025. Next slide. And I want to go back to the fact that, again, this platform trial is also an opportunity to advance science, because we are collecting a variety of biosamples, digital biomarkers. We're doing DNA analysis, checking neurofilaments, and then for new regimens, actually, we'll also be generating stem cells from participants. So there's a lot that we can do based on this trial, also in terms of supporting additional research. Next slide. And all of this happens at many sites. So it doesn't only happen at our center. We are committed to being present everywhere we can in the US, and we have partnered with wonderful sites of the NILS ALS Consortium. We started in 2020 with 52 sites, and then if you keep clicking, you'll see how we continue to grow with the additional regimen. So we went to 64, we had added 2 sites for D, we went up to 60 sites for regimen E, and now currently we have 74 sites activated for F and G. So that means that we continue to add capacity in densely populated areas, but also added new sites that simply didn't have research before. So there is also sort of an infrastructure building effort here. Like, we're trying to make ALS research more available at more sites. And some of you live near sites that have been up and running for a while, and some of you know that the sites were recently added, and we actually have already selected 10 more sites for the new regimens. And so we're trying to continue to be present in geographically diverse areas, both urban and rural setting, both academic medical centers and private practices. So we continue to grow, and we're very grateful for that. And you can see the map by using our website. And thank you, Catherine, for posting it. We are continuing to grow in size, scope, again, new regimens, new sites, but also we are adapting the trial based on learnings in the field and what we have actually learned as part of this trial itself. So, for example, we are adding stem cell generation from participants, as discussed earlier, and we have a few set of criteria that were recently announced. So I would like to remind you to the press release that were recently announced, and that's available on the website. So you can use the QR code or the link. And on the slide, you see sort of a quick review of the major changes. These have been discussed with our patient advisory committee. So thank you so much for all your feedback. And we plan on having our statistician join one of these webinars in early 2025 to be able to explain in detail all the reasons for these changes. So more to come on this in the new year. Next slide. We're also continuing to add new regimens. And again, we have one that was announced, as you can see on the slide. That's the drug Monepantel from PharmOst, now known as Horizon. We are in design with 2 other regimens for, again, mid-2025, and also in contracting with additional regimens. So hopefully we'll be able to announce all of this very soon. Next slide. We're also continuing to build infrastructure. I mentioned earlier that we are committed to bringing research to more centers. I think that's important so that people have the same opportunities wherever they live, and they can participate in the trial. Whereas until a few years ago, it was only the big cities or the big centers that had ALS research. And now we're continuing to foster new opportunities thanks to the growing network. We're also trying to support some sites in growing their capacity, because we hear from people living with ALS that sometimes it's hard to access a trial like this. Like, for example, even if you live near a site that has research, there may be many people interested in joining the trial, and there may still take some time to actually join, even if you live near a center that offers the trial. So for this reason, we started a pilot initiative called the ACE Initiative, or Acceleration Centers of Enrollment, that's located not only at our institution, but also at Northwestern University in Chicago and at the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis. And that's been made possible by support from generous donors, including an anonymous donor, ALS One, Let's Turner Foundation, and Never Surrender. And these are groups of patients and foundations that understand the importance of having people get access as quickly as possible to research options. And so we are really, really thankful to these foundations that are helping us kind of, step up at these sites right now. So in preparation for the new regimens that are going to come in 2025, we're now training new staff, hiring new people, so that hopefully when the new regimens open up in 2025, we'll be ready to accept more people that we've had in the past. And that's definitely a goal of ours, to accelerate enrollment so that people don't have to wait. Next slide. We're also sharing our experience by way of open access papers. So if you're interested in learning the technical details of how we designed and launched the trial, and also the statistics, which is fairly complicated, is that those are all the details are available. So you can follow these two publications that we published, as we were launching the trial. And then if we can go to the next slide, and again, all the slides are available on our website. But we have recently published one kind of comment that's more digestible. I think it's more like a kind of an overall comment on lessons learned from our first 4 years in operation, and that was published in Nature Aging. And so you can follow the QR code again to get access. I'm very excited that the regimen-specific papers describing the detailed results with a lot of supporting documentation from the first 4 regimens have been accepted for publication, and they will be out early in the new year. So we'll definitely provide them to you and all the information as soon as they're published. So again, many more publications coming out in early 2025 about all the details so that everyone can read them. Next slide. So again, we continue to try to publish our experience and share our experience. So if you're new and want to hear more about kind of how we came together and how the trial was launched, this is a nice piece that our team at Mass General put together. Again, we've sort of with a Q&A. This is a nice read if you're interested in learning more about the history of the Healy Center and the Healy ALS Platform Trial. You can read that short article on our website. Next slide. Also, we are not the only ones, obviously, who are providing access to resources and information about trials. So these are some excellent sites that can help people navigate clinical trial opportunities. Obviously, we are excited about the platform trial, but this is not the only trial. There are other trials, and so we want you to consider other trials as well. And these are websites that can help you get access to more information. I will say we saw a little bit of a low number of trials being available in 2024. Unfortunately, I had to say this was not the greatest year in ALS research news, with a number of trials that closed with negative results and not many new trials starting. But I think that in 2025, we'll see a number of new trials starting. So I feel like, if you're interested in joining in 2025, there may be many more new opportunities. And of course, there's also expanded access now available for people that don't qualify for clinical trials. Now, even the spots for those are also relatively limited, but I think it's good to stay in touch. And we do have a dedicated webinar series on EAPs. That's the second week of every month. Next slide. I also want to mention that there are other great webinars, for example, those that are sponsored by NILS. If you're interested in information about other research topics that are not related to the platform trial. So for example, there's an exciting webinar coming up, or I should say it just happened, but the recordings will be available on the NILS website about the role of AI or artificial intelligence in ALS. This is obviously a relevant and timely topic. So I invite you to check out the library of webinars at NILS. Next slide. For example, we have, like, is an additional example of great webinars. I do want to highlight the ALS One Symposium that just happened a few weeks ago. It's a virtual symposium with amazing speakers. I would say 3 days of information, recordings of all presentations are located on the ALS One website. I would really, really encourage everyone to go and check out the amazing scientific talks. The day one was a day of sort of more general scientific talks about genetics, about new tools, new approaches, really fantastic overview with experts from around the globe. And then on day two, there was a number of presentations from industry, from companies that are in the space and have upcoming trials. So if you want to learn more about who are the companies that are actually going to be opening trials in 2025, the ALS One website is really the go-to place, I think, to see the most updated information. And specifically, I want to point out that our new partner, Neurazon Therapeutics, formerly known as PharmOst, will launch again a regimen with us in 2025. And they gave a great presentation. So if you want to learn more about their science, that was, again, available. It's available for everyone to hear. And that's on the ALS One website. We will also invite them in 2025 to give a presentation on this webinar series, so that in addition to listening to the recording, you can actually ask questions live. So that's coming up. Next slide. And last but not least, thank you so much, Catherine Allison, for being our resource. We had 2 webinars a month. The second week of every month, we have an expanded access update. So that's coming up January 9th. And then we'll be back with our regular platform trial update on the 23rd. I would say that, both now we're kind of separating the 2 series because there's a lot of information, and I think there's going to be many more new EAPs and trials in 2025. So good to have kind of, a dedicated webinar for each. I would also recommend that you sign up to the ALS link. That's our newsletter. And so if there's additional webinars or additional information, you can always get information directly by email. And so with that, I think I'll take the questions. So I see an interesting question about progress in a different disease called spinal muscular atrophy, or SMA. That is not ALS, but it's a different form of motor neuron disease. Most forms affect children. And fortunately for this disease, again called SMA, there's been some remarkable advances in development. So essentially now there's a gene therapy, there's an antisense oligonucleotide therapy, and there's also an oral drug called risdiplam that is used to treat SMA. And so the question is, could there be drugs that are used for SMA that could be helpful for ALS? And so some of the mechanisms are similar. Again, SMA is not ALS, but it's also another motor neuron disease. I mean, that's a great question. I think it's important that we learn from different disease areas. Now, the 2 treatments for SMA that are targeted to the gene, so the gene therapy and the antisense oligonucleotide, wouldn't really work in ALS because they're targeting a different gene. They're targeting the gene that causes SMA, not ALS. But you're right, other drugs that can help with SMA, such as risdiplam or others that may be in development, potentially could help ALS too. We would have to test it. So it's a good point. As we have progress in one disease, we should be able to learn from one another and learn lessons from other diseases. So that's definitely something to watch in the future. So question is about other regimens. And so essentially the questions are, do we have results for F4G? No, we are actually busy analyzing the results. And so we should have them again in the new year. I'm really hoping to see, the results being announced at that time. So stay tuned. And as soon as we have them, we will announce, as we've done in the past.
If I can, Dr. Paganoni, to say the ALS link, the email system we mentioned earlier, We'll send out notifications about webinar opportunities, but that's a way too when there are press releases that go out and news and ALS research. That's a pretty immediate way to get that information. So you don't even have to visit our website. If you sign up for the link, when those press releases are available, you'll get it pretty instantly.
Great point. Yes, absolutely. We want people to be informed and have the information readily available. So please sign up for the link. And again, the information is on the slides. It was also on slides from previous webinars. So if you go on our website, you can easily download and follow the link. So the other question is, how about the new regimen? The new regimen, Monet and Pantel, they had actually very positive results in a phase 2 study, phase 1 study prior to joining the platform trial, and they lowered neurofilament levels. So the question is, what are my thoughts about that? Well, I mean, I will say that, we're excited about this drug joining the platform trial again, because there were positive results in a previous trial, a trial that was phase 1. So obviously the caveat there is that phase 1 trials are small. And so, we still need to confirm these results. So, we're excited about including the drug, again, hoping that all of this will be replicated, and that would be fantastic. So more to come on that, and we're hoping to launch the regimen in early 2025. So that should come online very soon. Other news from another Australian company, people are asking about spinogenics. And so I don't have the results of that particular trial. I know the results are, expected over the next few weeks, and we would love to partner with them. I think it's another great compound and great company. So more to come on that in 2025. Then there's a general question about the blood-brain barrier. So what's the impact of the blood-brain barrier on the efficacy of treatment? So that's an important question. So the brain is somehow protected from this blood-brain barrier, from things that circulate in the blood. And so that's good and bad. And it's good that there is a barrier so that things like viruses or bacteria or toxic or harmful things may not enter the brain so readily. So that's a good thing. But then the problem from a drug development perspective is that means that the drugs have to have certain characteristics to be able to penetrate the barrier and get into the brain. So some drugs may be good drugs, but they may have chemical characteristics or size that prevents them from entering the brain. So what we need when we are talking about drugs for the brain, so such as drugs for ALS, we need drugs that are both effective in general, that are effective on a certain mechanism, but also can cross the blood-brain barrier and get into the brain. If they don't, the other option obviously is to inject them in the spine, inject them intrathecally, so that you'll get these spinal taps, and basically the drug can be injected directly into the brain. So again, targeting the brain is complex, because you have to not only get the right drug, but also get it there, get it into the brain. And there's a couple of ways of doing that. So the question about another company, Koya Therapeutics, Treg research. I mean, we are familiar with them, and really exciting research coming out of Dr. Stanapel's research on Tregs, and now really excited that there is a company that's now working on that to suppress neuroinflammation. So I think all of these early stage trials are very important. They can tell us a lot, and hopefully we'll see them progress over the next few months. And again, I want to go back to that ALS1 symposium where, most of the companies that you're asking about actually spoke. So rather than listening to me and a short summary, you can actually go and listen to their full presentation that's available for free on the ALS1 website, and you'll hear exactly the updates there. I think the ALS1 research symposium that we have every year is really a fantastic forum for new companies to present their updates. And so it's great that it's available virtually to anyone. Great. I think we got all questions, and thank you so much, Catherine, for posting all the great links. So, another question again for another from another company, Neuronata or Stem Cell Trial, again, please check their webinars because they can provide more updated information. And again, the ALS1 website is a great tool for that. And so with that, I mean, I think we'll see you in the new year. I'm looking forward to another year of webinars, and thank you so much for joining, and Happy New Year. Bye-bye.